The human speech appeared somehow on the sidelines of evolution and plays no role in it from the point of view of the nature. You might say that other animals were too serious to play in something as frivolous as the speech. The apes we come from became the ancestors of the man due to the bigger than in other animals tendency and willingness to play. An efficient and with time more and more efficient communication system served such a fun very well. If we look at the young and the youngest of the most diverse mammals, they have one thing in common: they, their unbridled and tireless desire to play. So, this is not just a feature of only the human species. But let's note the difference in the behavior of the keepers of these playful children in humans and in other species of the mammals. In the humans, the vast majority of caretakers play these games. They consider playing with little children to be natural and proper. They even provide young individuals with an access to toys and other forms of playing. So there is a whole culture of education through a play in humans. Other mammals do not know such an attitude. The animals, the animal juveniles, are just as hungry for, for a play as human ones are, but they meet neither understanding nor cooperation from the older brethren. And the lack of this form of upbringing, which in humans has even become a culture of upbringing through a play, makes the childhood of the animals pass quickly into adolescence and adulthood. So we do not stop playing with toys because we are becoming adults. We become adults because we stop playing with toys. The secret of the overwhelming success of the human species in the evolution of the nature is incredibly trivial. Being the descendants of the monkeys, we became the lords of the whole earth, controlling it in every possible way, not thanks to some unique intelligence, because many animal species seem to be even more intelligent than we are. We became the lords of the earth thanks to the fact that we are the most playful of all the apes. We are the most funny of all the animals. We are simply animals that love to play. And the play is the most important element of our lives since the moment of the conception until the late age. And the speech developed when the individuals of the human species played with each other. It was so, and it is so. Those of us who, since an early age, show an increased willingness to play, and importantly, have good conditions to play with others, begin to talk faster, to achieve social adaptation and independence, and are successful in all areas of life because everything they do is fun. And no one is afraid of what is fun. A person's physical and mental health is also proportional to the desire to play. This is the way it is. We come from such a happy, playful monkey. Anything that contradicts a person's playful mood is detrimental to him and leads to the intellectual stagnation and the subsequent regression. More than once we hear, or maybe even hopefully repeat the sentence: while playing, we do not get old. We do not even realize how fundamental this statement is, how true it is all the way back to the very origins of the human species. The anthropologists and the researchers of the human civilization must rewrite our history, because if you write a history of people without understanding their most basic nature and the primary flywheel of the human evolution, which was a play, you cannot write a history of the human evolution and civilization close to the truth. As a playful genre, everything that humans have done and created throughout history has been done in the image of a play. The human civilization, one could safely say, is based on a play system. The human speech is the best example of this. Why is human species among all animals the most keen of playing? The human fetus is already clearly playing with its limbs. Very young babies smile at the offer of a play, and by playing with them, we quickly find a common language. The early childhood period is almost a constant play all the day round. Then comes the school period. Those children who find the possibility of a passionate play there go through this time with joy and passion. And by the way, they can master quite a lot of symbolic skills, such as writing, speech, logical thinking. Many children, unfortunately, do not have a good time at school. Most often, it is the fault of a rigid system that a child has to adapt to, not the other way around. This is a huge downside of the general school system. It would be better if child had a personalized education system and could always have fun in it. The contemporary universal school system is a relic of the bygone eras, epochs in which no questions were asked about the human psyche and even less about its development. Practically, the idea of school has remained unchanged since its first beginning in the distant past, where its role was understood as a place of stuffing the head with knowledge, and from the very beginning it was not and was never going to be a place of fun. On the contrary, the school was always proud, and probably continues to be so, of being a place of seriousness. Unfortunately, this misguided paradigm has made so catastrophic damage to the mankind that it's difficult to quantify. Since the earliest school stages, the healthiest play reflex of the children is blunted for nothing. They are forced many years too soon to give up playing. The mental pressure and all the mental manipulations are used to extinguish their healthy play reflex and make them the most passive recipients possible of the so called school curricula. Of course, such a model of teaching brings zero effects in the long run because the passive teaching can never bring other results. The only effective teaching is the active learning. That's the teaching that meets the child's natural curiosity and activity. And the natural activity of a child is a play activity. And here the circle closes because the universal education system does not have the ability to follow the individual play activity of each child and therefore becomes de facto a system of limiting the child's development. While such a system was not surprising in the Middle Ages, the times of enslavement of mankind by a group of ruling lords who refused the right to development to their subjects, it's surprising that in the modern times, supposedly democratic, proclaiming the freedom of individuals, the medieval school system remained roughly the same, and the same effects: the wasted childhood years, and something even worse. I believe that the brutality with which Since immemorial time, the human play instinct has been blunted in the process of the so called education, is the source of the worst misfortunes that the humanity has prepared for itself. In the case of the majority of children for whom the implementation of the so called schooling obligation means everyday suppression of the spontaneous and pro developmental play reflexes, after a shorter or longer period of time, there comes to a long term suspension of the mental development. At first, a so called teacher draws attention of the concerned parents that their child is rude and inattentive. Instead of doing what the teacher says, the child has his own fun ideas for spending time at school. Such a child is being daily, during hours, subjected to more or less aggressive pressure from the so called teacher who tries to suppress the healthy, playful reflex of the child. After all, one teacher would not be able to implement the school curriculum with 30 children freely devoting themselves to the reflex, each in its own way. The effects of such a mobbing of children are terrible. A disturbed communication with the environment caused by the teacher's aggressive attitude, it blocks the child's spontaneous and correct behavior, leads to the development of the anxiety disorder. Naturally, the child also stops developing properly mentally because the only way to develop properly mentally is through playing. Less playing means a worse development of the child's intelligence. Thank you.